Today on Locked On Canadians, we try to optimize the Habs roster using only people they already have in their organization. We celebrate our 4-year anniversary with Marty, and then we talk about what do we do if the Montreal Canadiens do nothing at the trade deadline.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadians. We want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. As you know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. My name is Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. We're just going to get this out of the way. The Team Canada women got their butts kicked by the Team USA women's team. That game was very tough, and I think there's going to be a lot of discourse about it. We're going to avoid the discourse. What we're going to do is we're going to hope that MPP is okay, and we're going to hope that Canada can regroup and at least put up a better showing against the United States next time that they meet. In the meantime, we have lots to talk about today. We got a question from a TikTok listener last week that we really wanted to turn into a segment, and that's optimizing the Canadiens roster. We're allowed to make one move other than using people in the Canadiens organization. Then we're going to talk about 4 years of Marty and what that's brought to Montreal. And finally, we're going to talk about how we cope as a fan base. No, really. We're going to talk about what happens if the Canadiens do nothing at the trade deadline or, make no moves, let's say, from now until the end of the regular season. So, Ian, are you ready to talk about all those things?
Yes. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So I do want to start with the question, which I did prepare, and then I just as always, just erased from my screen. And it comes from listener Andy Rue on TikTok. And it said, for a mailbag consideration, if you could freely build Montreal's roster without waiver or cap constraints, what would your ideal lineup be? Forwards, defense, goalie, with the current players in the overall organization. And then I followed up saying, can we trade for anyone? And said just one realistic trade if you want to use it. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is like a great way to ask the question. Like, who do you think is still going to be on this roster if you could have anyone you want? Right? Like, who comes off this roster? And for me, it's not my favorite thing to say, but we're not seeing Josh Anderson on this roster. We're not seeing Joe Veleno on this roster. We're not seeing guys like Sammy Blais. We're not seeing Jaden Struble. We're not seeing, a good one, though. Are we seeing Zach Bolduc on this lineup?
Yes. Now, I want to take issue with something you just said.
What?
I might extend Josh Anderson. Hear me out.
I love him.
Hear me out.
Okay, I'm hearing you.
I'm not doing it at the cap hit that he's at. I'm not doing it for any extended term. Because here's what I foresee with Josh Anderson. The role that he plays, penalty killer, lower of the lineup, energy role, guy that you want on your team in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Canadiens are going to let Josh Anderson go and immediately be looking for the next version of that player.
Yeah. Remember that there's no cap constraints, eh? It's just like you just have the roster spot constraints, like the contract limits.
Yeah. I think there's some remorse in letting Yoel Armia go. I think there's some remorse in not having a replacement for Christian Dvorak, which they remedied by getting Phil Deneau, who has stepped in and played exceptionally in that role. Like Gallagher, I feel like you could move on from. It would hurt. It's going to hurt when he moves on, but I feel like you can do that. With Josh Anderson, like I feel like if he goes to the open market next summer, that's a guy teams are going to fall over themselves to throw money at that guy.
Yes.
Like I think that, assuming that he ages a little bit more gracefully than maybe we would think.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'd give him 2 more years. You know, $2.5-3 million. I want to set the expectation that that's not a crazy thing to do.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's crazy.
Okay.
I think people don't like Josh Anderson at the cap hit he's at, but if he has Jake Evans's contract, we're thinking this is the best contract in the league. At what Josh Anderson is doing, the role that he plays. I know this is an optimizing the roster segment, and I've just decided to become a Josh Anderson truther in this, but there was something about the fact that your first thing was we're not seeing Josh Anderson. I went, I don't really know. I don't think that's set in stone.
Okay, but let me just tell you this, okay? Anyone in the Montreal Canadiens organization, you can have 13 forwards, 7 defensemen, and 3 goalies. Who are they?
I mean, a lot of guys. That's a lot of guys to name.
That's a lot
I
of
think
guys.
you can assume like all the core is here.
Yeah.
Like you said, Joe Veleno, thank you for your service. Brendan Gallagher's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt watching him walk out the door. You hope that it ends in a cup. That would be really sweet. That's a really nice way for him to exit this chapter of his career. I think the interesting parts are which of the forward prospects are fixtures on this team. I know everyone loves Michael Hage for good reason. The dude rules. I'm really excited to see him. I know people are very excited about Alexander Zhuravsky out of the KHL.
Yeah.
I am. I think my excitement is tempered just a bit in that I don't know. Everyone keeps going like, oh, he's doing what Demidov's done. It's like, but it's not the same.
Demidov is a different level of talent.
Different level of talent, different situations, different stuff. So, like, I'm excited about all those guys. The challenge I see is you have to build a hockey team, right? It's not just you're not building an all-star team where you can just have like, I feel like it's sort of the inverse of what Bill Guerin was saying. Like he tries to like roster build in these best on best tournaments where you need muckers and grinders where you don't. It's a very short tournament, but in like an 82 soon to be 84 game season with 4 rounds of playoffs, you do need those guys. It's a little bit different of an experiment. So like that's why I'm stumping really hard for Josh Anderson right now but if I'm looking internally, can one day Luke Tuck be that guy?
Yeah.
Maybe. Can one day, on defense, can Owen Protz bring something like that? Like I think these are reasonable questions to ask. But yeah, I think up forward, it's mostly just like how many of these top 6 talent can fit within the top 6.
It's pretty much almost set, right?
Almost. There's a couple. Realistically,
spots.
There's 1.5 more spots. There's a spot next to Cole and Nick on the top line,
and then
which remains a revolving door.
Yeah, and then there's a spot where Kapanen becomes your third line center, and you have somebody a little bit better than him.
Right. That's why I gave that a half spot.
Yeah,
because it's like I still think he is the clubhouse leader for second line center on this roster
right now.
Right now. That's we have to live in the here and now, Laura. I can't invent dudes who are going to be second line center on the Montreal Canadiens until we know that that's a thing.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think like I'm straying a little bit away from like optimizing the current roster because in my mind, Kapanen only gets moved down if somebody in the organization like Michael Hage proves themselves to be second line center material, or if somebody becomes available that is better than Oliver Kapanen.
Yeah.
And like noticeably better, like worth giving up assets for better. Like there's going to be guys that are better. It's just like, are you going to trade? Okay. So I really like the one that I'm really curious about is what you think about the goaltending.
Yeah. I mean, it depends the scope that we're looking at, like how far in the future we're looking into this. So, Dobish just signed his extension. He is under contract through the end of next season, and then he's a restricted free agent. Montembeault is under contract until the end of next season, 26-27. He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of that. So it seems like the Canadiens have set themselves up for next summer to be an inflection point for their whole roster, really.
Yeah.
But goaltending there's a possibility that goaltending is completely different 2 years from now.
Yeah.
I think, at the rate, the way that Dobish has been playing and has battled through things and has succeeded and failed and succeeded again, I feel like he'll be in one of those spots. Sam is the big question mark. Like, if you asked me at the beginning of the season, I would have said, of course, he's going to have that spot.
Yeah.
But now I feel very much the opposite. I feel like there's no chance he has that spot in 2 years. And they'll at that point, Fowler will have had two seasons playing pro in the in North America to have assumed that role.
Yeah.
So it's really, for me, it's a 3 goalie race, but one of the goalies has almost effectively played himself out of it, and he has to try to play himself back into it in the next year and change.
Yeah. I think that's going to be tough for him. I think the Canadiens do move on from him later.
Yeah.
And just bring up Fowler and kind of don't really look back and then have to worry about who the next Fowler is going to be. We're not going to make that same again.
Yeah, I almost wonder if there's a reality where Sam Montembeault is traded this summer. He doesn't have trade protection. Some team is going to be trying to look for a goalie. Maybe Edmonton's looking again. Who knows?
You're always looking.
And that starts the Fowler era in Montreal. Maybe not as a starter. Maybe it's a 1A, 1B thing again with Dobish. But it opens the door for him and maybe gets the Canadiens a nice asset in return.
Yeah. That makes sense. All right. We got to move on from there. Coming up next, we're going to celebrate our 4-year anniversary with Marty. He didn't get us anything. How rude. We'll get into that in just a moment here on Locked On Canadiens. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The Olympic Winter Games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you are locking in for events that you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. That's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, hockey, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. There's the drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get really intense fast. Every 4 years, all of us become addicted to curling, even though none of us understands it. Speed skating, I love speed skating. It's so dangerous, though. It gets decided by just inches, and we're here for hockey, right? There's a hockey games as well. FanDuel is just going to keep the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Thank you for making Locked On Canadiens your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And if you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You'll get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Canadiens, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. And you'll also get an invite to the members-only Locked On Canadiens Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. We're hanging out in there. We can't wait to see you there. We're going to be talking to you guys all the time. So go to lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. All right. I think we can forgive Marty for not getting us anything if for his 5th anniversary with us, he gets us a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It'll be late, but it's fine.
Yeah, well, we can wait a couple months if it's that good. All right. Honestly, let's talk about Marty. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about how Marty sometimes gets hate in our comments, and there were a bunch of you that didn't believe it. It's actually true. And he doesn't it's fair for people to have the opinion that maybe he's more of a development coach than a playoff coach or whatever. He's just going to have to prove those opinions wrong. And I think that's pretty respectful, but there's a lot of people that think that Marty is objectively a bad coach. And I personally strongly disagree. And not only that, I do think that Marty is one of the better coaches in the NHL just by virtue of being able to evolve and grow and learn from his mistakes.
Yeah, I think so. Again, I mention this a lot because I think it's important to understanding. Ultimately, what we think of Marty St. Louis is immaterial as fans, right? It's what his bosses and their bosses think of him. When they hired him, the reason they hired him was because of his. One of the main reasons was because of his emotional intelligence, right? You can find a lot of guys with pedigree. You can find a lot of guys with cups, with experience, all of that stuff. You that's a lot harder to teach, especially to NHL coaches. I don't know if you know this, Laura, are incredibly stubborn people. They don't like to make changes. They don't like to change. They like the way that they're doing things. And quite honestly, that's how they get to where they are, is because they believe in themselves. They believe in the things that they're doing. Why would they shouldn't change at a fundamental level. So they don't. Marty, for what it's worth, on a fundamental level, since he got here, he's the same guy.
Yes.
And that to me is the magic of this player. He has He's tweaked things on the the way that they play. He's tweaked things in their deployment, but at his core is the same guy that he was 4 years ago, which is to say an incredibly motivated guy, a motivator of men. Like he all of these players will run through a wall for this guy.
Yeah.
You cannot find me a coach, I don't know, in the last 30 years for the Canadiens. I'll go back to Jacques Demers as maybe the last one who these guys would run through a wall for.
Yeah.
They respected all of those guys. I'm sure they
Sometimes
respected
they them.
Yeah, I'm sure they respected Guy Carbonneau. I'm sure they respected Claude Julien. I'm sure they swallowed their pride and they respected Michel Therrien. But none of them have the sort of cult of personality that Marty does. And I think that's important.
Can I tell you what I think?
Yeah. No, it's only my podcast. You're actually not allowed to do that. Yeah, of course.
I think it's because Marty would also run through a wall for them. And you can't say that about the more old school coaches of the NHL. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Like, he likes to give you an opportunity to have your opinion. Yes, he's the coach and he does get the final say, but it is still a democracy. Like, if you think something will be better, he urges you to bring it up, and then you have to kind of prove that it will be better, right? You put your money where your mouth is. And so if you're a player and you're having trouble, and we always get this kind of like, are you guys coaches in the NHL? No, we're not coaches in the NHL, but we know a little thing about, I know. We know some things about management. We know some things about managing people. We know some things about hockey tactics. We know some things about like the way hockey players work, right? So I think that there's something incredible to be said where like Marty gives you the opportunity to be part of the solution, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's like it's positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. We've seen him yell at them. We've seen some of the funny things he says when he's angry at them and like bag skating them or whatever. He doesn't do bag skates a lot, but he does run drills kind of harshly sometimes when they're not doing well. You see that, right? Like, you see the way he talks to them and yells at them. Nobody's protecting the puck, blah, 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 lots of swear words. But then when they do good things, he will tell them that he's proud of them. He will, I love some of the Canadians after every game or after every win, they post the locker room, right? And who gets that like really dirty, disgusting wolf head thing. But they also like, sometimes there's like a bunch of words for Marty and it's like, it's all bleeped out because every second word is a swear. But if you like read between the swears, it's like, I'm proud of you guys or something like that.
That was the last win before the break. He looks, he's like, what are we 4-0-1 in the last 5? And he ended it by saying, "I'm proud to be your coach."
Yes.
Like that. How do you not get emotional thinking about that? Like, there's never been a guy in that spot who has said that to these guys. Exactly. So like, I this podcast, we will always stump for these guys, right? It's why we stump for Mike Matheson, because we see a dude who's incredibly talented and is out there just doing it every day, despite the fact that some of you guys hate his guts for no reason. That's why I stumped for Josh Anderson
one time.
Yeah, exactly. It happens.
Yeah.
I just stumped for the first 10 minutes of this show about Josh Anderson. Why? Because it's a guy who it matters that he wears this sweater and that he gets to do this every night. Like, it matters to him a great deal. Like, you look at I also go back to the Martyism of him, saying if he was told he had one night left to live, he'd want to spend it on a Saturday night at the Bell Center. And having gotten to do that for the first time in my life this year, retweet. Like, I would also want to do that. Like, that sounds awesome. I'm doing it again soon. I can't wait to do it.
Yeah.
So like, I think people look at coaching hires as if you're hiring like just a strategy in a body. And that's not what it is. You're hiring a motivator of men. You're hiring a people person. Like, that's at their core what these guys are. They have to manage all of these personalities and get them to fit within what this team is trying to do. I think at his core, Marty is the best coach for this version of this team. And I really don't want, I don't have it in me to hear this whole, he's just a developmental coach. Since when?
He's also developing into what's going to be the contending version of Marty.
Yeah. This version of the Canadiens now that's supposed to be developing went into the Olympic break with home ice advantage in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that can be overstated.
Yes.
Like last year when everyone was like, oh, the Rangers will be back. Like, the Rangers are dookie and the Canadiens are still what they are. Like, so it's I will always, as long as he is out there putting it out there, being Marty St. Louis, and go, we say the guys will run through a wall for him. He would do the same for them, and he'll do anything to win these games and to make this team a Stanley Cup champion again. As long as he is doing those things, I don't want to see another guy behind the bench of this team.
Yeah.
Like that's my guy.
Absolutely. And I do want to end this by saying, that when they hired Marty, they never talked about any of the things we just talked about. We didn't talk about motivation. We didn't talk about anything to do with strategizing, and they didn't talk about emotional intelligence. They talked about how he was a hockey mind. They liked the way that he thought the game, right? So they said that, but all of the other things are also things that he's good at. And I will say his in-game strategy and in-game decision making needs work sometimes. But you saw that masterclass he put on against Spencer Carberry of all people in Game 3 of the playoffs. Like, that's not that. Like, that was obviously the pinnacle, but to this point, right? But that's not the last time he's going to do that. There's so many more lessons he's going to learn. So when we talk about like he's developing too, like I just think he's so incredible, and I think that he, like this team, is developing into the contending version of himself.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to end it on.
Sorry, one last thing I'll say, like one of the things that we criticize, at least I criticize him for, and I know a lot of other people do too, is when the Canadiens give up a couple goals in succession and we're all like, call a timeout, and he never calls a timeout. I almost, in retrospect now, think that this was the right course of action to let these guys play through it. No one's coming to save you. You guys have to figure this out. I will admit, like, I don't think that Marty thinks that way. Marty doesn't think, I have to bail my guys out here. He's trying to make them that, want to talk about developmental coach. That's him developing those guys. Figure this out yourselves. No one's coming to, I'm not always going to have a timeout to bail you out. Figure this out. And they keep coming back in hockey games. So maybe there was some truth to that being a good idea.
Maybe Marty was onto something. Maybe he was like playing, what was it? He was playing chess while we were playing checkers.
He's playing 8-dimensional chess, and I'm over here eating the pieces. Like, it's not similar.
We love Marty. So 4 years of Marty. Let's get into, after all of that, what if the Canadiens do absolutely nothing at the trade deadline / make no moves between now and then? This episode is also brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you could make. And that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled QUO, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with your customers. I love how simple Quo makes everything. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal. It works right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing phone number. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps, so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise that Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnhl. That's QUO.com/lockedonnhl. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. All right, we went way long on our Marty love. Way long. But that's okay, because our last segment is, what do the Canadiens do? I said, what do we do? I think we as a fan base also need to manage our expectations. But what do the Canadiens do if there are no moves to be made between now and the trade deadline to improve this team?
I think, and I pitched this idea because, as you said, I think we have to come to the conclusion, not the conclusion, but we have to start to prepare ourselves for the fact, to the point that the Canadiens might not do much of anything at the trade deadline. It's never been a time where they're especially active. I don't think Kent Hughes has made a trade deadline day trade ever. Like, I just don't think it's happened. He's that's not true. I think Lehkonen was a trade deadline day. He's made a lot of selling moves on that day, but the Canadiens aren't sellers anymore. So I think I think the one thing they would like to do is add something that would be somewhat long-term, 2 to 3 years. I don't think there's any interest in rentals. And the only way they're going to be able to do that to add something of that kind of long-term is if they manage to move out Patrick Laine's contract. Which is to say, like, what if they don't? Like, what if they can't find that partner? Jeff Gorton has said they're not willing to add anything to that to get rid of a contract. They're not willing to do that. So I think it's important to just put it into perspective that it might be another boring trade deadline. Now, that's for the Canadiens. For the rest of the league, like speaking in terms of the Canadiens, there's only 3 more Canadiens games before the trade deadline. Like, it's March 6th, and we all go, that's forever from now. That's almost a month away. There's not a lot of NHL games that are going to take place between now and then. So, for what it's worth, once that roster freeze lifts after the Olympics, I think we're going to see a bunch of teams make a lot of mistakes coming out of the Olympics. And I hope the Canadiens are not part of that. They've done a very good job of not being part of that. They kind of, I hate this expression, but they march to the beat of their own drum.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not concerned with what everybody else is doing. They're not going to add just because somebody else adds something.
Yeah, I think that's key. They're not
Yeah.
going to be on a bidding war just because of FOMO. They're not going to add because they panicked because Detroit got whoever, Elias Pettersson. I keep saying that because I think that they have cap space for him. I don't know why
It makes sense.
It makes
I genuinely don't hate it for Detroit for them
Oh
to
no,
add a
I love
body
it.
like that.
I love it for Detroit. I don't love it for the Montreal Canadiens, right?
No.
But you kind of have to have faith in this team because this is like an insane stat. I'm stealing this off of Reddit. Absolutely. Okay. I sent it to you guys earlier because I couldn't believe it. And I did follow the math and I do think it's true. So the Montreal Canadiens are 25-1-3 when they get 885 save percentage, right? So they are still winning games with 885 save percentage. So if you just say, like in the Reddit article or the whatever post, the person was like, what if they got 905 goaltending? What if they just got 9 goaltending, right? The Montreal Canadiens are a phenomenal team. Like, look at what they're able to do with that hole in goal. Look at what they've been able to do with all their key injuries. So the Canadiens don't necessarily need to add to compete with people right now because they know, as you pointed out earlier in this episode, they know that next summer, so not the one that's coming up, but the following one, or it could be either one actually, this upcoming summer or the following summer, that's where you go from good to great.
Yeah. The one thing about that goaltending stat that I was really curious about, and I don't think that the user went into it, like, what is everybody's record when they get that goaltending? Because I imagine it's good. The average for goaltending in the National Hockey League right now is 890.
Yeah.
So if you get half a percentage point better than average goaltending, I would imagine most of the good teams are in fact good. But I think it underscores the problem that the Canadiens have gotten this year. Like, you look at, people will say, oh, the defense has to improve. Yes, it does. But just by like the metrics of like how many scoring chances they give up, how they control play, they're like middle of the pack. They're not 32nd. Right. Yeah. So to not be getting strong goaltending is kind of why they're in this situation. There are lots of teams who are middle of the pack who get middle of the pack goaltending and they're able to be good. Yeah. So I don't think there are going to be any goalies available. And I don't think the Canadiens fire their goaltending coach if they think they're able to get a goalie. Yeah. I don't think they had any ambition to find another goalie this year. I think they're going to ride it out with these guys and readdress it in the summer if they need to. But like, that's why, like, you look at what the holes on this team, right? Like, could they use another penalty killing forward? Maybe. Mm-hmm. But like, they're about to get Newhook back. And also, with what room? Where are you playing them? You already have we have food at home, essentially. Like, why are you out buying
have forwards food? At home.
We have forwards at home. Like, don't go buy food. Yeah. Could they, what I've been, saying I want.
Right shot D?
A sixth defenseman you trust. A guy you can slot next to somebody on that third pairing and go, I don't have to worry about that. Like, that would be great, because right now they don't have one, because you can't, you can't just keep alternating between Struble and Xhekaj as if like this is like one of them is gonna be hot and just gonna be able to take. No, you need somebody. You need a pro who can step in and be that guy.
Yeah.
That's gonna be tough to find. Like that might be the one rental I'm okay with acquiring just to see how this run can go with it. But I don't. Doesn't every other team also want that? Like that's why I keep lending back to like. I feel like it's gonna be another year where they don't do anything, and it's totally fine.
Yes. I agree, because this is not the year, like we just talked about going from good to great, right? Like this is not necessarily the year that you can
Right.
flip a switch and go from good to great. Like you're not one player away from contending. You're a few things away from contending. Or like even it's like, you're a few guys reaching their prime. It might not
Right.
necessarily be like a few pieces you bring in. It's more a few pieces that are ready to come to Montreal from Laval or, NCAA or whatever. Or it's just like these guys hitting their stride. Like we haven't
Yeah.
seen like this. Demidov's having a great season, right? Is he still topping rookie scoring? I think he's
I
the
think in
points
rookie
leader.
points, yes. I
Yeah,
think
he's the
he's still at
points
the top.
leader. Yeah, like this is like a very okay year for Demidov. Like he's not
Yeah.
remotely hit his stride yet, right? So
No.
that's when you make those decisions.
Yeah, I think like as fans, and you said it like we're not one piece away, right?
Yeah.
And I think so many fans like that's how we look at this sort of thing. But I completely agree with you. Like I don't think we should look at it in terms of guy. Like we need this kind of guy here. Right now, yes, there are holes and maybe they'll be filled, with guys that are already here. But like I think what I'm looking at is like time,
Mhm.
experience.
Mhm.
If this is what rookie Oliver Kapanen looks like, what is he going to look like in 2 years?
Yeah.
Is he a bona fide second line center? If this is what rookie Ivan Demidov looks like, what is he going to look like? If
I
this is
just got
what
goosebumps.
sophomore Lane Hutson looks like, he's going to go nuclear on the league in a few years.
Yeah.
Like I just think like we get so many questions about trades, and I love talking about trades because it's fun. We love being armchair general managers. But in the back of my head, I just keep thinking like it's probably, the Canadians are probably most likely
To wait.
going to just wait it out, see what they have, and strike when they need to.
Yeah.
And when that guy becomes available that they think is we cannot leave this moment in time without this player, they're gonna go get him. But I just don't think that there's a lot of guys that are worth completely dumping their plan over, and certainly none of them are available right now.
Correct. I absolutely agree. And so the one thing I will say though is that just because we don't think that they're one piece away does not mean we should be enjoying this journey. It does not mean we
No.
should not be like, living and dying by every game the closer they get to the playoffs. It was so much fun last year, right? And it's
Yeah.
going to be fun. And it was agonizing against Washington, and it was hard when they got kicked out. And you had the tears with David Savard and everything like that. But we're going to have to live that for a couple of years, and we're going to have to enjoy that for a couple of years, because at one point this team's going to look at itself and realize now we're one piece away.
Yeah.
And then they pull the trigger. And I trust this front office to do that, to do that right thing at the right time.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I wouldn't want anybody else making that call. I've talked about this exact feeling, I think, since I joined the show, that like we're in the most exciting part of this team's core right now, which is like there are very low expectations and they're so much fun and they're blowing our expectations out of the water.
Yeah.
Like regardless of whether or not they think it's time to take a swing for a big piece, I think that shouldn't impact the way you enjoy this team, the way that we view this team every night, the way I still get excited to watch these guys play. I'm so excited to see the Olympics, but the little gremlin in the back of my brain is like, I want to see Josh Anderson throw somebody into a wall. Like and I will wait on that. It's delayed gratification. I will get that eventually.
Yeah.
But like the fact that they're not that one piece away shouldn't be like, well, then why are we watching if they're not fully trying? Because they're trying to see what they have. They want to keep collecting information on the guys they already have.
And we have to enjoy what we have, because we have some of the best players in the league. We have Lane Hutson. We have Ivan Demidov. We have Oliver Kapanen as a rookie, right? We have Nick Suzuki over a point per game. He's an Olympian. We have Cole Caulfield. We have to enjoy that. Slavkovsky. I can't believe I just forgot Slavkovsky, right? We have some of they might not be the number one. Like just because you don't have Nathan McKinnon or Connor McDavid does not mean you cannot enjoy your Nick Suzuki.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And we got to enjoy it, because that's what all of this is about. And I am so sure that if anyone is going to bring a Stanley Cup to Montreal, it is this front office.
Yeah, the expectations are coming. There are going to be moments where it's not going to be acceptable for them to have a bad penalty kill,
Yeah.
to
Or
go,
to like lose in the second round.
to have a winless week.
Yeah.
Right. Like there are going to be times where that becomes like, this is not acceptable.
Yeah.
That's not now. So I think, eventually they're going to get to that point where they decide it's time to put their foot on the gas. But right now they're cool coasting because the guys are carrying them right now.
Yeah.
The guys that they have on this roster are making them all look like geniuses.
I think we got to do our trivia because now I want to run through a wall.
Yeah. So I got to go to bed after this. This is terrible. All right. Yesterday's question. Layla Thomas is the first Black woman to play for the Americans in Olympic ice hockey. Who broke the color barrier for Canada for men and women in ice hockey? So, Laura, do you have the answers to this one?
I thought it was Jerome McGinley, but I think that's wrong for the men's. But I know the women's one is Sarah Nurse, and I know
Yes.
in today's game there were 3 Black women in today's game, like the Canada USA game,
Yes.
and that was actually like quite a lot. So it is kind of shameful that the barrier was broken by Sarah Nurse because that was like in 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know that for the men's it was 1984.
It was 1984. It was Darren Lowe.
Yes.
Which I also thought it was Iggy. So that was news to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also
Darren
got
Lowe.
a couple of people guessing Angela James, but she was very controversially left off of the team that went to Nagano. And so she never got to make it. So she's not the answer. So I got a couple of friends being like, was it Angela James? No.
Yeah. Yep. Valkyrie Ennis had the answers correct as always. That is the free square on this show. All right. Today's question. While a member of the Edmonton Oilers, Georges Laraque scored his first and only career hat trick in February of 2000. On his second goal, he was assisted by 2 Habs alumni. Who are they? So if you have the 2 Habs alumni who assisted on Georges Laraque's second goal of his hat trick, let us know. Put in the comments down below this video. Tell us any way you know how, and we'll give you a shout out on the next episode of the show.
And it was in 2000?
It was in February of 2000 against the Los Angeles Kings.
So if you were alive 26 years ago, you remember this, let us know the answer any way you know how. All right. We want to thank you all for tuning in today to Locked On Canadiens. Tomorrow we will have more Canadiens goodness and there will be a game to talk about with Habs in it. So make sure you subscribe to and you follow Locked On Canadiens so you get all the latest episodes. Actually, I'm wrong. Tomorrow is Wednesday. For whatever reason, I thought tomorrow was Thursday, but still, we will be talking about the Habs. Don't worry. And you can find us all over social media. We are on TikTok, Blue Sky, and Instagram at Locked On Canadiens. You'll find my co-host at Maybe It's Ian. You'll find me at The Active Stick. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Canadiens ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and more. Head to lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you who are on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. If you're on audio, please make sure you make your second listen of the day NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. We want to thank you all so much for listening, and we will be back tomorrow.